Tashidale to everyone, and welcome to the first class of the intermediate conversation class, Tibetan Intermediate Conversation class. And so today we're going to study and understand some statement related to tenses. So statements in relation to tenses. For example, how to say things if you're going to state certain actions that you're going to either take, have taken, or are taking at the present moment. So before we go to the actual class, let me first start with reading an aphorism. So we will be introducing this, one of this, each class. And so the first one for this lesson is ngagya kungpula yundengi chumicha. Ngagya kungpula yundengi chumicha. So what does this mean? It means that, so it's a saying in Tibetan, which is used in a certain scenario to give a certain type of instruction or guidance to younger people, especially those who are in the process of knowledge, because we know that sometimes when we accumulate a certain amount of knowledge, we tend to feel that we have achieved something that no one else has achieved to a certain proportion, or a feat that was only done by us in a given time frame. So therefore, in those cases, we have this idea, we have this thought within ourselves. We say, okay, so I have done this. And it's not a thought that comes when we say that, okay, I have done this. It is so wonderful that I was able to do this. No, not a thought like this. It's a thought that comes like, I have done this. They haven't been able to do this. I have done so much more than them. I am superior to them. So in those cases, this is a saying that is used in order to instruct them. So one can say that, oh, for example, if you encounter certain type of scenario, you can say, Lasso, which means that you should keep this in your mind. Or if you want to use a better word, you can say, which means you should keep this in your mind. So it's a way to instruct someone who is rather feeling egoistic at a certain moment of time, at a certain time they're feeling egoistic. So therefore, by saying this, you're telling that it's a saying which says that on the droplets of the droplets of knowledge cannot rest upon the ego-filled balloon, which actually refers to a person who is filled with ego. They are so arrogant, so much so that whatever is being taught to them, whatever that is being told to them, whatever that is a new knowledge that is given to them, they have their own preconceived idea about certain thing, and that to a certain degree, even though it may or may not be correct, they have this preconceived notion of something to a certain degree that they feel that they cannot be wrong. It is impossible for them to be wrong in this particular field. So therefore, it's a very good phrase that you can, a saying that you can use in those type of scenarios. You can say, Lasso, iya ngagya gompula yundengi chumicha, tekerangi simla jangus, tekerangi tula jangus, tuk being the honorific of STEM. So you're instructing someone. So this is the first one of the sayings that we're studying. Now let us get to the actual lesson. So today we're going to deal with understanding the different tenses, how we state different tenses So in English, we use, for example, we have different type of spellings for different tenses. For the more regular verbs, we add ed for the past, and we have certain word accompanying for the future, like will. So similarly, we'll see that even in Tibetan language, there is certain structure to identify a particular statement to either be a statement of the past, referring to something in the past, something that is referring to a present moment action, or referring to a future, something that is going to happen. And one thing that needs to be clarified here is that even though we're going to talk about tenses here, we're not going to go in depth about the tenses. This is not the subject of our understanding. We should understand it in a very general way so that it helps us in conversation. So therefore, the explanation and the usage that you might see here is not as elaborate as it is done while studying the very structure and system in the grammatical classes. When you study the text called the gender science, in which you have the topic of the three tenses. So therefore, we must understand that these are very general and very brief information. And the purpose is to be able to use them in our day-to-day conversation. Lasso. So the first, 机械, general introduction. So this is the general introduction. So I have written the Tibetan text here. I have written the definition and the explanations in Tibetan, and I will read them. And the very purpose of doing this is so that every one of you will be adapting to listening, will be able to adapt to listening and having Tibetan language in your life in a way that you will be able to be more familiar with this particular language. And the second thing is so that you can also read it later, and then you can compare the pronunciation. In a way, you can also improve, or you can also develop the pronunciation in a way. Okay. Pögi to ci la yewani chaci tian ci tang cikro jie yin par. Chaci ni pögi to joba kan shi yin ya me to mirong we chashi shi chagi yu. Pögi kei lang kei shen dan trawe to sum gi nam sha yu ba ma se chaji le sum gi ko lang gebar teng ju tu she yu. Okay, so this means that word, so in Tibetan, whenever we start the understanding of Tibetan language, we start from the concept of basic sounds, which is classified in consonants and vowels. And the union of these two bring out something called name and words. And the combination of name and words bring out something called statement. And with many statements, one can write an entire piece of writing, an article. So the smallest unit in Tibetan, the smallest unit that actually makes a sense is called name, ming, or word. It is classified as ming, sik. And so the action word, which is chazi, is classified under the group called word. So in Tibetan language, word is generally classified in three classes, which is the verb or the action word, the ornamental words, which you will encounter later. The ornamental words will be a subject of discussion under the course that will be provided on poetry later on, and companion words. So The companion words are certain type of words which are used either with a noun, a naming word, ming, or it's sometimes also used with the descriptive word, dilsi. And these words have a particular characteristic to themselves. That is, these words by themselves are incapable of manifesting a meaning. That is, these are, in some manner, you can also say that these are variable in meaning, meaning that it depends on which name or word it is being associated to provide a meaning, a full meaning. And in this, we have the companion words as well as the connective particles, which is the subject of learning under the grammatical text of the 30. So, and verb is a necessary component of a statement of Tibetan language. So whenever you're going to make a statement in Tibetan language, it is a very necessary component that a statement of Tibetan language should consist of verb in written. So this necessity is not only something that is inferential, meaning that it's not directly stated there, but inferred from either the former statement or by the entire context of the paragraph, but it's something that is necessary as in written. And Tibetan language not only includes the concept of tense, it not only includes and discusses the concept of tenses, which is similar to the other languages, but also has an elaborate system explaining about the object, subject, and verb in the text gender sign. So in the text gender sign, there is an elaborate understanding, elaborate description on each of these. What are the different types of object? What are the different types of subject? What are the different types of verb? And different type of classification of verb on the basis of different criteria. And rules explaining how one should understand the spelling of each of the tense. So all of this is stated elaborately in the gender signs, which is also a text which is being discussed in the grammar courses. One of the classical Tibetan texts written by Tumi Sambuddha. Okay, so Tusum Ginamsha na Zo Chezi Kang Shiki, Tusum Ranrir Jube Chezi Ki Taja To Number Sheyue. So the concept of tense has emphasis on the spellings of a verb in each tense. So you'll see that in each of the tenses, which is be it the present, the future, the past, or the imperative case, you'll see that the spelling of the verb changes. So it changes. And the way it changes, if we will not put a great emphasis on how it changes. Some change quite according to the rule that is stated in the text, which are more of the regular verbs, and some change in a very irregular manner. But we're not going to discuss that over here. But so the understanding that the tenses differ on the basis of the spelling also gives us a very great understanding that when we read, it comes when we read, because most of the time, the spelling may or may not differ that much in terms of adding vowels. And sometimes adding consonant as suffix does not change the sound a lot. So therefore, it becomes very difficult just by listening to understand that it is of a certain tense if we don't use something called the companion words. Or if we don't look at the other things that the particular statement has certain other characteristic. But when it comes to reading and writing, there should be great emphasis on the spelling of the verb, because dependent on the spelling of the verb, one is able to decide which tense it is. And definitely sometimes there is addition of vowels, which changes the sound to a certain extent that one is capable of understanding the distinction between each spelling of each tenses of a particular verb. So the first thing that determines the particular tense of a verb is the spelling. Now, temi tadung tusum rangre jube tar sigdro tuma pechu chekiyo, which means besides that, various companion words are used in the verb of each tenses. So we will also understand, or we will also see that various different type of companion words will be used with different tense of a verb. And I've also provided some examples that you will see here of the usage of different tenses of a verb. Laso, joba shi la ngepar tu chang gobe chashini cheba po chazi chawe yu jes. Necessary components of a statement are subject, verb, and object. So these three should be there. Now, the thing is that unlike the verb, the subject and the object sometimes may be stated differently, meaning that there is a distinct subject and a distinct object, meaning that the object upon which a verb is making certain change, putting some change, or the verb is targeted towards, may be different from the subject that is doing the verb. In some cases, the object and subject may not be distinct. This we will discuss in later class, but so therefore, it should be understood that in some cases, the subject and object could be one and not distinct, and therefore you won't see it written separately. Or sometimes you'll see that things may not have a directly stated object or subject. It could be inferential. But the verb is present, always present in written when it comes to a statement. Okay, so example statement. So here we see that my name is Tashi, in which we see that the verb, the conformational verb, is re here. And here we see that the one that it is not to be understood as a statement which is in which we see an action, but here it's more like a state of being. So naming so here this verb is tuk, which tells that someone is positioned somewhere, someone is situated somewhere. And the position is the shinka, the field, he's at the field, and the one at the field is he. Congbe jala cong, the shopkeeper sells things, in which we see that the one who the verb is to sell, congwa. The one who sells is the congba, and the one that is being sold is the jala, the object or the things. The students study, in which we see that the verb is to study, and the one who is doing is the student, and the one who is also being benefited from studying is the student. Okay, so so here we have a series of dialogue between two people, Tashila and Tsiringla, in which we will see that this particular concept is being put in practice. So we begin with the greetings. So always beginning with the greetings. Tashi dele Tsiringla. Tashi dele Tsiringla. So this is a greeting by which we wish someone good health and prosperity. So I wish you good health and prosperity, Tsiringla. So I have done a sort of emphasis on the translation, this particular translation, good health and prosperity, in which the good health refers to both the physical and the mental health. And they also should be understood as should be understood in two ways. One, having good mental and physical health. Second, being happy and peaceful. But the thing is that one can only be peaceful and happy when their physical and mental health is intact, meaning that they have a good mental and physical health. So instead of saying, I wish you happiness and prosperity, what I have done is that in the translation, I have focused on the cause of having good happiness or peace of mind, which is good physical and mental health, and prosperity. Okay, so Tsiringla, I wish you good health and prosperity, Tsiringla. Tashi dele tashi la. Kirang kusu setan hinshare. So this particular line says, so we wish what we do is that we greet the person who is greeting us back by saying tashi dele tashi la. Or in some cases, we can also say kamsang. This is also a way to say kamsang. It means kamsang means good health to you. So tashi dele tashi la. So let me see if I have the. I'll just add this here, so we can have. Okay, so we have this. So kamsang is also a way to greet someone, which means good health to you. Kamsang. So Teshidele is a more elaborate. It's a more elaborate way of greeting someone. We're not only greeting them with good health, we're also greeting them with prosperity and happiness. So Teshidele. I find this particular greeting to be a very nice way to greet people. Kerang kusu seta inshade. Kerang, which is an honorific to ke. Ke is a casual way, or sometimes also, in a way, also it's a little bit of talking to someone who is younger than you. So we're using the honorific, which is ke. Kera kusu setan hinshare. I'm sure you are doing well. Hinsha, sha, hinsha, which is in which we understand that we're saying that I'm sure. It's a word that gives you an understanding of. I'm sure that you have done this. I'm sure that you have passed the exam. I'm sure that you were selected. So sha, as you see, is a colloquial particle which tells us that which when used with a conformational particle yin, what it does is that it gives us an understanding of sure. Not only being there, but sure. Kerang debo inshares. Kerang tangbo inshares. Kerang chong ya bu zhugi yue share. Kerang lobzhong ya bu chegi yue share. So we understand that all of these are a statement which has the understanding of saying, I'm sure that you are doing well. So insha. That's all. La. So la or two ways to respond to something that has been said. La is a more polite way of saying la or la. La nga debo yin. Sirin la kungkam debo yin nam. So it says, yes, I'm doing well. How are you, Tsiring la? So we're asking them because it's a polite way to conduct a conversation with others. Because when one has told us or asked us if we're doing well, we ask them back. So la nga debo yin. Tsiring la kukam debo yin. Kukam debo yin nam. So we see that this particle nam. This is a grammatical particle which, when used after a conformational particle like yin, when you use it after the conformational particle, so yin, re, tuk, ye are all conformational particle, in which re, tuk are also conformational verb. So we see that yinnam is yin is a conformational particle. Now, what you do is when you add this particular particle at the end of this conformational particle, it changes it into a question. And an interrogative statement, it turns it into an interrogative statement. So la kirang debo la nga debo yin. Sirin la kungkam debo yin nam. Kirang kang to pipkin yin nam. Kirang ki shela chue yin nam. You see that when we end it with this particular particle, it turns it into a question. And another particle which comes in the colloquial system is Kerang lopta la chin yin be. Kerang ki shela chue ca yin be. Kerang ki lega che ca yin be. Is also a particle, a colloquial particle, which functions as asking a question. It turns the statement into an interrogative statement. So we see that here, it has turned the statement into interrogative. So, yes, I am doing well. How are you, Tsiring La? La. So we see that Tsiring La is also replying in a polite manner, saying La. I am definitely fine. Sure, definitely. I'll definitely do this. So let me write this. So for example, if we say which means I will definitely do this. So it gives an understanding of assurance that something will be done. Here, I'm definitely fine and well. Where are you going right now? Tata, which also gives us, Tata is a term that gives us an understanding of time, which refers to the present. So it's saying, where are you going right now? Or presently, where are you going? So we understand that this question is targeted to Tashila in the present time. So Tata can't pipki. Where are you going? Okay, so I'm definitely fine. Where are you going right now? La nga Tata tromla se nyoru to gyuyin. So the thing is that in these dialogues, you will see with Tata, I'm using the present form of the term nyo, which means to buy. Do, which means to go, will go, or currently if it's I am going, currently doing it. So nga Tata tromla tse nyo to do gyuyin. Siri la kang to pepsam. So another way to conclude this is without using the conformational particle, you directly use the interrogative particle here. So tiring la khan to pepsam. Where are you going, tiring la? Oh, I'm going to the market to buy vegetables. Where are you going, tiring la? Lasso, which is a polite way to acknowledge what has been said. Ngani duntra jemar toje den la trozi yupe mekor zincha nga peche tu joyin yu. So it states that, okay, I'm planning to go to Bodh Gaya next week, which is why I'm going for the booking of train ticket. So here we have a word, a new word. It could be a new word to some. It could be a repetition of a word. Mekor, which means train. Zinchang, which means Zinchang normally means a receipt. It means like a receipt. But here we understand it as a ticket. So, mejor zinchang. Some people might also use the word mejor lakir. So some people might also use the term lakir, which means like a certificate. So, mejor lakir, which gives an understanding of a certificate for traveling in the train. So you can use both, but most commonly people will use zinchang, mejor zinchang. Ngani duntra. This particular sentence is talking about something that that Tringla is something that Tringla will do in the future. So we use jemar, which means later or next. So you will see the word like 着记, 且记, which means planning to do. It's a word that is used with the verb. So here it functions more like a companion word. It is attached to that verb so that we understand that it's a planning in progress. It's not something that is 100% decided to be it's not something that is in the presently happening. It's not something that has happened, but something that is on the planning, meaning that something that will be done in the future. So whenever we say, for example, if you say nga chuzi chi ki je la khala saga truzi yu, nga terin shopa trom la truzi yu, nga terin neba insan or nga terin neba in par song sang lobta la truzi me, means I have no plan of going to school. So it is something that is not happening presently, but is something that gives us an understanding what will be happening in the future. So here we see that Tsiringla is planning to go to Bodh Gaya next week. So 着记yu. Okay, so lasso. Hajan ya woto. Ngatso ni dawang hamar. Now we see that Tashila is talking in a manner that he is referring to something that has already been in the past. So dawang amar, which means the last month. So whatever action that is being done here will be done in the past. So nganso ni dawang hamar toji tenla chin sahi. So we see that the form of verb used here, do science or chin science, song science, in some text you will see the word song. In some text you will see chin. This means something that has already been done. Mean gone, went. It means went. So nganso ni dawang hamar toji den la chin sain, which means that we already went to Bodh Gaya last month. Hajan chilab chimpotu. It was a very blessed experience. So here we see that when something has already been done, we use the past form of the verb with a particular companion word. So one way to recognize a tense of a verb is either by understanding the spelling. For example, when we say do, which is present and the future, and then we have chin, which is the past, we see that there is a very big difference between the spelling. And just by hearing it, we can tell that this is the past, and this is the present, and this is the future. But sometimes that may not be the case. Sometimes the spelling may not differ that much. In those cases, we must rely on the companion word. Here, we have the companion word, tsar, chin tsarin, chin sin. So you can either say chin tsarin or chin sin. So you can say, nga tawang hamar chin tsayins, nga tawang hamar chin sin bayins. Both of these are correct because the companion word says something that has already been done. Lasso, 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 lasso. So when we have two consecutive lasso, lasso, it is to be understood as someone saying, oh, okay. So they're acknowledging it. So it's a polite way of saying. Sometimes you can say ale, which is also a way to acknowledge, or you can say lasso, lasso, which is being more respectful. Oh yeah, ta doyin. So this is, there are many ways to say goodbye. Sometimes you can say jema, which is saying I will see you later. Or simply you can say demo, which means good health, or be well. It's a way to say be well, demo. And then the other person will reply demo. And then if someone is sitting at a certain place and then you are moving along, you can say shugo, which means be well. So or shugo, which means that be well, I will be moving forward. So we understand that in this particular statement, or yin, which means now I will go. Because do is also the future tense of the word do, which is also the present tense. Here we see in future and the present, there isn't much difference. The spellings are the same. But the past and the imperative case changes quite drastically. Lasso, lasso. La, or you can just put more emphasis. If you're being more respectful, make sure that it becomes more softer, and you stretch the sound a little bit. Lasso, lasso, which is being more respectful. Lasso. Okay, I will see you later. So in this exchange between Tashila and Tsingla, we saw certain examples of the changes in the spelling of the verb. This particular example was given in order to give us an idea of the changes in the spelling of a verb. So different tense has a different spelling of the very verb. So here is a table in which we can see this. It is more clear here. So present tense, che yin. Past tense, che sin, che tsar. Future, cha gyu. And then imperative case, che shik, che. Then zhong, present tense. Zhang, past tense. Zhang, we see that the difference is the suffix letter sa. Sapata baya the zhang asach. Sapata baya the zhang asachang and sapata baya the zhang achang. And then zhongshik. It will be, we will see, we will discuss, there will be more companion words with each of these. Dro, go, chin, went, draw, will go, and song and chint. There are two imperative for this. One is songshik and one is chint, which is also used in the used in the term parul to chint, which means to go beyond. It's an instruction. Go beyond this parul to chint or parul to chimpa. So two things. So parul to chint, which means go beyond this. To go beyond this, it's an instruction. It's an instruction here. So it's the imperative case. Sa, eat. Se, ate. Sa, will eat. So. And this is something that we used in the Eastern Tibetan dialect of Kham. So our elders, when we were young, our elders, like our grandparents and our parents, would tell us, "Ta so so," which means it's a command telling that now eat. Ta so so, and therefore at that time we didn't have the understanding. Why are they saying so? We have heard other parents say sa, ta sa, and my parents are saying so. Why is it that there's this difference? And I used to think that they were pronouncing it wrong when I was young. But later I understood that they were right, and I was just assuming something based on something that was more normalized at that time. The way people would speak, they would say tasa, tasa. And then I would think that my parents were pronouncing it wrong by saying taso, taso. But in reality, so was the correct one. So, which is an imperative form, we say, now eat. Che, which means to speak. She, which means spoke. She will speak, and should. Ta should, ta ma should, which means now speak, now say. It's an imperative form. T, to write. T, wrote. T, will write, and T, it's an imperative form. So in these cases, the sound does not change that much. You see, there isn't a very observable change in the sound. And in those cases, we have to rely on either the spelling in writing, but if we are speaking, we have to rely on the companion word. Jal, meet or visit. Jald, have met or visited. Jal, will meet and visit. And jald, to meet or visit, the imperative form. T, to ask. T, have asked. T, will ask. And T, to ask. So we see that in these cases, this is the imperative form. Tatishi, which means now ask. You told me that you have asked, you have questions, now ask. Nyo, to buy. Nyo, bought. Nyo, will buy. And nyo, to buy, the imperative case. So we see that in this table, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 verbs. And for all of these 9 verbs, we see the different spelling. So spelling plays a significant role in identifying the tense, definitely. And some of the spellings change quite drastically, meaning it changes quite noticeably in a way that you can see that there's addition of the vowels. And when we have addition of the vowels, the sound changes. Changes not only subtly, but quite significantly, that we can hear it. So therefore, spelling plays a great role. Sometimes people make the mistake and then they just write the same verb for all tenses, which is very incorrect. And if we talk in the context of the grammar, it makes no sense at all to use a present tense in the future tense statement. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so Chetsiki tacha tsam mayimbar, to sum ngusongi tavshi sheni, tang, up is not only the spelling of the verb, but identifying the time of action and companion word is also a method of identifying the tense. So there are two other factors which also contributes into identifying a particular tense of a statement. One is the time of action, meaning that some statement will have the time of statement stated with the statement. For example, we saw tata. Tata is a time, which means currently, right now. Tawa jema, tawa hama, next month, last month is also a certain time period, which tells us when this particular action was done. So even if the sound of that particular verb does not change as much, by observing the time of action, which may be stated sometimes, which may not be stated sometimes, or the companion word, like we have observed, che sin, che tsar song, che gyu yin, che zi yue, che xin ba yin. We can understand that with these companion words, we can also identify a particular tense of the statement. Tense of the verb should be significant only when it is changing, when it is giving an understanding of when certain action was done and what type of message is being conveyed. Is it about an action that is going on? Is it about an action that has already been done? Is it about an action that will be done? And so the first thing and the most important thing is to understand the spelling of the verb of each tenses. The second thing is the time of action and companion word. So let us observe this here. So this is the companion word. So with Tatawa, present, Deba, past, and Maong, future. Nge kangba zangma suki yue. Or nga kala sayi yue. Nga kala sashin yue. Sayin yue. Sashin yue. So, for example, we can say, Nye kala sayin yue. So it means I am currently eating my food. So it's something that is happening at the current time. Nye kala sashin yue. Kong lopcha qin sin pare or qin sin song or qin sin pare, which tells us that someone has already gone to school. So we see that the difference is not only in the spelling sometimes, it also, these two are definitely different verb. So the difference sometimes, so let me write it. Nye chowo. Lopchar doin do. My friend is going to school. So we see that difference is not only in the spelling, it is also with the companion word. Here we say simpare or charsong, chin charsongs. Shi chomla chin charsong. Here we see that we have chin charsong, which is the companion word charwa, charsong, which means someone has already done something or they went. So therefore, we understand that the difference is also due to, or we can also identify the different tenses on the basis of the companion word. Nga, seni, or nga, lobcha, you in I will go to school. Means that I'm not going right now, but I will go to school. So you see that the difference is also with the companion word. So we have certain companion words for each tenses. Yue, yin, which are conformational particle. Duk, song, re, also conformational particle and conformational verb. Che, shimba, yin. Che, re, chagyu, re. So these are companion word. This is the conformational particle. Kin, kin, yin, which is used for continuous form of present, something that is happening at the very present moment. Like you can, like you see here. Which means currently when I'm looking there, I see my friend going to the school. So presently, it is a action that is happening. So it's a present continuous. So we also use these. This is actually a connective particle. So doin for present continuous form. Then sin song, char song, char yin. Nye te cher char yin. Nga lobta dro char yin. Kong lobta dro char song. Nye lega de che sin yin. Kong chu lega de che sin song. So for a second or the third person, for the first person, yin. For the second or the third person, song. Now, for the future, we say cheju, nga te cheju ins or chezi yue, chezi du. Chezi yue for first person, chezi du for second or third person. So third person, okay, let me just do this. Kong lobter or kong gumba la rozi du nga gumba la rozi yue. He is planning to go to the monastery. I am planning to go to the monastery. So the conformational particle is different, but the companion word zi is the same for the future tense. Okay, so these are the companion words which are used with different tenses. Now we have now we see that usage of these particular companion words in the conversation. So la nga shopar kanto cheki yue. So we see that this is the present tense because of this particle and yue. I recite prayers daily. Nge tata leka chazang chekin yue. I am doing all the work now. We are using kin because it is a verb that is happening presently. So present continuous. So chekin yue. Kong kala sa shin tu. So you can also use shin. Shin is universal. Kin kin yin. These kin yin will depend on the suffix that it follows. Whereas shin is universal. It can be used with any verb. So to make it a continuous form. Kong kala sa shin tu. He's eating his food. Nga lobter doyin yin. I am going to the school. Yin because it is a continuous form. Notice that here we have used kin, but here we have used hin because the differences of the suffix letter. Here we don't have any suffix letter. Here we have the suffix letter ta. Kong lo mang po hun la ke le chin ba de. So chin pare. Chin is the past tense, and re for the past tense. So he went to Tibet many years ago. Lobsen ding ye lo kasheng ne jang simbai. Jang, which is the past tense, sin, which is the companion word that accompanies the past tense form of the verb. And since it is the first person, nge, nga, so we're using hin. If we were to talk about a third person, we'll say, lobsen di kongki, lobsen di kongki, lo kasheng ne jang simba re, or jang sin du. I studied this chapter many years ago. Nge jojo kala se tsar song. My brother already ate food. So we have used tsar song because jojo is the third person here. Nge jojo is the third person. Nga is the first person, but the subject is not nga or I. The subject is my brother, which is the third person. So therefore we are using tsar se tsar song. If it was the first person, we would say nge kala se tsar hin. Kongi kala se tsar song, nge kala se tsar hin. So let me just write this here. Kongi kala se tsar song and nge kala se tsar hin. So the difference is the conformational particle. One is song, one is hin. Okay, so Kongi kasa game ya pu shidra nang song. So he spoke well yesterday. He spoke very well yesterday. So we understand that the subject is the third person. So we are using song. Nang is the verb. Song is the companion. It's like a conformational particle here. It's the companion word. So nang song, shida nang song. Again, lucky. So tau gading again is an abbreviation. It's the short word for gege. So we have gege. So we just combine this into ge. We see many of these days. For example, we have word like gurting che, and this can be written as jiche. Or we have word like tashidele. But the thing is that it depends on it's a personal preference. I'm just simply introducing it here, but personally, I prefer using the longer one instead of the abbreviated. But this is something that we see has surfaced in the recent times. It is something that's surfacing in the recent times where you have these abbreviations. So Genla is the abbreviation of Gegenla. So Genla ki Pege name is intra Chigude. So here we see it's the future tense, so we have Gyu. Re. Nye nezu kashe to kecha she Gyu yin. I will speak on many issues or some issues or many issues. So we see that we are using Gyu yin because it's the first person and it's the future tense. Gyu re because it's the future tense and the third person. She is planning to ask a lot of questions to the teacher. So here we see Tashi is the third person. So here we say tuk or re. We can either use re or tuk. Tizi tuk or tikyu re. With q it's re, or with zi it's tuk. Seng ni ngan so zetang la zhu yu yin. So nganso we, since the first person is included, so we use yin. So we see different companion words used here. Yu, yin, zi, sin, tsar. Now, check up time, the different timing of the tenses. So, tadawa, deba, maomba, present, past, and future. Tadawa, tada. Nga tada drugin, which means that I am going now. Droyin. Nga tada droyin. Deba. Nga deba. Debar kong which means in the past he went maomba kong drugyure. In future he will be going taring, which is today. Taring ngaloptar drogyu taring ngaloptar drogyin or droyin, sorry. Taring ngaloptar droyin. Today I will go to school. So taring ngaloptar droyin. Today I will go to the school. And then we have kesan, which means kasan, which means yesterday. Kasan ngalopta dros singins. Sengnin or chinin. Chinin means next day. Sengnin means tomorrow. So sengnin ngalopta la dro gyuyin. Chini ngalopta dro gyuyins. Tate tusu. Presently, at current time. Hame tusu. In the old times, in the earlier times. Chime tusu. In the future. In the later times. Tengsan, these days. No, to earlier times. Maung, future times. Tengtu. Similarly, it means at current time. No, to, which means in the old days. Maung, in the future. Talo, this year. Longhoma, last year. Lojema, next year. Dunta or Tawati, Duntati, this week. Tawati, this month. Dunta, Tawa, Tawanghama, Duntrangama, previous week. Tawanghama, last month or previous month. Duntra, Jema, next week. Tawa Jema, next month. So these are all words that shows a particular time when the action was done. Tsiring, Tada Nangle Tishintu. So we see that he is writing his homework right now. So with this particular time of action, we also understand that an action was done at the present time. So zunt here is used to provide a understanding of instruction. So giving instruction. Imperative has, we will study in later class that imperative as command, imperative as request, imperative as instruction or guidance. So this is imperative as guidance. Greater perseverance towards dharma practice is required at present time. Tsiring, talor charpa mangpo pabgintu. It has been raining a lot this year. So talor means this year, means a year that is currently going. A year that is currently going. So this year, it has been raining a lot this year. Pabgintu. So presently happening. Nganchu tawadir shingle mangpo cheki yue. We're doing a lot of field work this month, meaning that it's a general sentence. It's a general sentence, meaning that they do it in this month. Not that they're doing right now, but this month, particularly this month of every year, they're doing a lot of field work. So we see tawadir, which means this month. Kesan lega mangbo cheyin. Yesterday I did a lot of work. We understand from the word kesan, kasang, which means yesterday. Nge longhama pui center zushu cheyin. Last year I participated in Tibetan course. So longhama, with the usage of longhama, we also understand that it is a sentence which talks about a past. And then also Jul, Shuk, which also tells us that it's past. And then yes, we understand from this too here. Saying Konki Duntra Homar Lega Chazang Sar Simpare. He had completed all of his work last week. So last week he has finished all his work. So we understand this from the term Duntra Homar, which is the time of the action. Many kings emerged in the earlier times, which we understand from the word debetu. Okay. For future. We understand with the time of action being tomorrow. And also the companion word zi. And then also the spelling of the word do. So the three factors are here. He will go to the library next week. The time of action. Draw, future. Gu, which is the companion here. The people of future generation will have to preserve the language. We understand from the word maon, which means the future. Cha, which is the future tense, and gyure is the companion word. So we see that in these statements, we see all of these. In some, we see all of these three of the factors which identifies a particular statement of a particular tense. Lo jema, xingpa tsu, ruri kan tabzi dukam. So this is an interrogative statement. So lo jema xingpa tsu, ruri kan tabzi dukam. So zi, with zi, we understand that it's a future. Tab is the future tense, and lo jema, next year, is also a term that tells us about the future. So with this, we understand a particular statement to be of the future tense. So this is how we either speak in a proper way to give the message, to convey the message that a certain action is being done at a certain time. If we follow this rule, we can speak in a correct manner to convey a message of an action done at a particular tense, at a particular time, be it in the past, be it in the future, be it in the present. But all of these should be followed, all of these rules. First, the spelling of the verb. Second, the companion word. And third, the time of action. And once you're able to integrate all of this into a statement, you're capable of conveying a message which provides the understanding that a particular statement is of a particular tense. Okay, so these are the new words. First one, sekap, which means time of action. Tering, which means today. Sengni, which means tomorrow. Kasang, which means yesterday. Keik, which means language. Guzin, which means to preserve. Topchen, which means powerful. Mekor Jinchang, which means train ticket, or sometimes you can use the word Mekor Lakir. Ngapa, which means to book a ticket, to order someone to do something, or to order a food. Nge khala ngapa is. Nge kola ngapa is. Nge Mekor Jinchang ngapa is. So let me write this. Nge khala ngapa is. Which means I ordered food. Nge kola lega ngapa is. Which means I ordered him to do something. Nge mekor zinchang ngapa is. I booked a train ticket. So ngapa. Then zushu, which means to participate or to enter in a competition or in a class or in a course. So this is the lesson for this is the lesson as per the conversation using different tenses. Now we have 2 idioms each class, which I will introduce and then give an example on how to use them and how to perceive them. So the first one is davsho ni de. Davsho ni de. Davsho ni de. Which means possessing both wings. And yes, it doesn't mean that we literally possess both wings. It has a meaning. So it means possessing 2 qualities regarded to be utmost important and a catalyst towards enhancing each other. For example, one possessing the modern and traditional knowledge. So both the traditional and the modern knowledge functions as a catalyst in furthering understanding furthering expanding one's knowledge. The reference is taken from bird being able to fly only when both its wings are intact and functioning. So we know that a bird can only fly in the sky if both its wings are functioning and intact. If one of the wings do not function, the bird is unable to fly. So the bird can't take flight. Similarly, without both of the qualities in this particular reference, let's say one having both the modern and the traditional knowledge, one is not able to make significant progress in the field. So we see that in current times, we see that there is the preservation of the ancient Indian culture and knowledge and tradition. But this can only be done if the person has both the modern as well as the traditional knowledge, because it's not only the fact that one should study it. It also talks about trying to conserve it and then also trying to teach others about these things. And we see that most of the traditional knowledge in these times needs to be taught either person, if it's possible, person to person, but in many cases, it is taught online. So one should also have a knowledge of the modern knowledge of using the technology, such as currently we're using the Zoom to teach something that can be considered a traditional knowledge, which is a conversation in Tibetan language, preserving a language. So one cannot have a great significant progress if one does not have both of this. For example, if currently I'm teaching this through Zoom, if I was unable to use this technology, the audience to this class would be very limited. So it's with the understanding of how to use the modern technology, which has made the accessibility of technology through technology of this particular class, that I'm able to reach out to people who in old times would be, in earlier times, leave out sending messages, would not be able to know that each of us would have existed. So therefore, possessing both wings should be understood in this way. So, nothing ki sheyun ni ki davsho ni dembe kebashi che. It is necessary to become a scholar possessing both wings, possessing both the traditional and contemporary knowledge, or modern or contemporary knowledge. So we use it in this way. It's more to this is a idiom which is used like the first one, the first the first one we have the aphorism, where it is like instructing someone. Similarly, this is to instruct someone, to tell someone that one should strive to do this. So so this is the first, and the second one is hasam kabo, which means white sincerity. It doesn't mean a sincerity, which literally doesn't, which has a literal white in color. It means white here is a symbolism, and it signifies purity or without any stains, evil intention or ulterior motives, which means that sincerity, in a way that some sincerity which is not based on evil intentions or ulterior motives. For example, not thinking that, oh, I will be sincere to them for now, and then later on, I will use my own personal agendas. I will use them for my own personal agendas. So that's ulterior motives. So not doing those things. To do things with white sincerity means to do things only to completely benefit others without any thoughts of benefit to self, or with the thought of wanting to benefit others entirely, completely. So therefore, the phrase means pure sincerity or sincerity without any ulterior motives. The other person who is doing this, having that sincerity, doesn't have any ulterior motives, like, oh, if I do something to that person, later can I benefit something? Oh, and then later use them for some other things. These are ulterior motives, and therefore it's not white sincerity. But here, white sincerity means someone who is having pure sincerity or sincerity without any ulterior motives. I bow down in respect to my teacher with white sincerity. So one's teacher has great sincerity, with white sincerity. So they truly devote everything that they have in order to benefit without any other ulterior motives. So white sincerity. So you can use like this. You can use this particular idiom with someone that you feel has this type of characteristic. Hasam kawi kigen la, dagi kigen la, hasam kawi dagi lama la, hasam kawi dagi pama la, hasam kawi dagi tropo la. So you can use it in this way. Okay, so this is it for today's class, and I will have time for 2 questions. If anyone has questions, I will have time for 2 questions. So please ask away. So does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson? And I understand that in today's lesson, we have quite a lot. So do we have any questions? Does anyone have any questions? I have time for 2 questions.
I have a question. It's Christina. Thank you
Lasso.
so much.
Lasso.
I was trying to get into the Google Drive for the information yesterday, but it said that the folder was empty. And so I'm just wondering if that was just because it hasn't been loaded yet, or I couldn't open it.
So information on those things, most humbly request you to contact through the email, or you can directly contact Swetala for those information. I'm totally ignorant on those aspects. So therefore, please contact Swetala or write to the email for that particular inquiry.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it said in the chat that materials were loaded 30 minutes before the lesson. And please join the study group. Very good.
So do we have any other questions regarding the lesson? Lasso.
In the field of your examples, I think I'm not sure whether you should put the Jeddah there or
Uh,
not. So I'm not sure
which
whether it's a bit
example?
confusing for me.
Lasso.
The for example, the first line la nga tanda tron la chen no nyuru dugin. This one no need, right? Because draw is tamideba.
Yes. So so this we see that yes, definitely do is so we see that we don't have cheta here. It's nga, so there is no cheta. So nga tata chomla no.
The shodan jela.
Al shedan jumala.
Je.
Kandide shodan.
The I don't remember. Oh, maybe this one now. Nga nintar shopar kadun jegi yu. Yang na nge nintar shopar kadun.
Yes, lesser. So very wonderful question. So this is something that that has to do with a more understanding of the particular sentence. So yes, normally we will write nye nintar because it is chaje tham tadeba, right? It is the chedelezi. It is chedelezi. Che is chedelezi or chaje tadeba. So therefore we write nye. But sometimes with the first person, what we can do is that if it becomes too wordy, sometimes we can avoid a lot of if there is a lot of particles coming, and in some cases if the particles are repeating, like if it's la de, which is repeating for few times, then we can skip some of the la de. But yes, this is something that is more preferential to the writer rather than the language. But if we go according to the grammatical rules, we have to write nge nyintar. But nga is preferential and is not incorrect. If the sentence becomes too wordy, then it becomes very difficult to pronounce it if you have too many particles. So that is the reason. Lasso. Okay.
Diga naisin kongkala sashindu yang kongki kala sashindu
Kongi kala sashin. Nika tigre lao. Agarare. Lasso. Okay, so now sunda.
I don't do yana kari shisho.
Yindangi. Kenangi tuwayos na ngala kuna tigre and chokbala. You can either send it to the group or directly to me. Lasso, kadinche. Lasso. So this is it for today. And thank you very much for joining in today. And I hope that it benefited every one of you as it benefited me to hold this class. And please remember to read the dialogues and find the differences. Just look at the definition that was explanation provided, and then go on and search how each dialogue has been written in accordance to the explanation, and then try constructing sentence. So one important thing about the conversation class is that you can make sentence and send to me, and I will check those sentences. And this can help you with conversation because you're building the sentences. And with we're building the statement. Very sorry, I have to make this clarification. I will particularly use the word statement and not sentence because this is the word that has been very the grammatical text. So I'll use the word statement. So you can use you can form the statement and then you can use it in the conversation. So Tashdele to everyone, and thank you very much, Lasso, for joining in. And I wish every one of you a good day, a good morning, a good evening, a good night, depending on where you are. And have a wonderful day. And Lasso, Tashidele, and I will see you for the next conversation class. Sacheche.